which is great for goalkeepers, which is why you're seeing great, like a lot of saves, but you're just not seeing quality PKs, men and women. You're not seeing quality PKs.
Yeah. Stan, question for you. Obviously, you're coaching at the youth level and at the collegiate level right now. Is this a trend that you're noticing in both the youth game and the college game in regards to Kalen's, position of behind the line and then forward progress?
Yeah, I mean, it's the only way to go if you really want to solve it by almost diving as you see it. You need to have that momentum forward to go because you can't leave. So your only build then is to go sideways if you're on the line. So at least you can go forward and counter a little bit of that movement that the striker's jumping, changing their gait, slowing down, speeding up, whatever it is they want to do. At the end of the day, this does give you a little bit of room and comfort behind. So I think it's the right thing to do.
Speaking of that, I want to talk about this because we talk a lot about micro movements in this show, and we talk about, shifting and all that. Every goalkeeper is going to be different, and depending on what your stance is, it's going to determine how you move too. I want to show this was considered the save of the year in MLS, and this is Pedro Gallese, who, as we all know, over at Orlando City, had a very, very good season in Major League Soccer. Definitely in the running for goalkeeper of the year. I mean, it was a really tough race this year. I want to point this one out. This is in the.
Oh, hi, Stan. We lost Mike.
Yes, we did.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Now we can. Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay. All right. So I'll go back. So this is the 82nd minute. This is against Atlanta United. Essentially, Dom Dwyer receives this ball. It's a turn and it's a curl towards the near post right here. And because of Pedro Gallese's shape, in my opinion, which is a wide stance, he has to push off, go with that outside hand to make this save right there. Thoughts on this save, guys? Why should this be a save of the year? Is this a good action in your opinion?
Well, I think we're going to go back to, I think what Stan said in the beginning, just the higher line positioning. I think the reason you're seeing more micro movements in goalkeeper is because they're higher off their line. Is because they don't have to travel laterally so far to get into position. You get it, Mike? You understand what I'm saying? So now you see those little micro macro movements, step, and then explosiveness. Do I know if this is the save of the year? I didn't see every save in the MLS. But I think he has. It's a beautiful save. I think he has it covered. Love to know what he's doing that other arm, but that's okay.
Thoughts, Stan?
Yeah, I like it. I'm not being critical of it when I say that, this, I think, is expected of a goalkeeper at the MLS NWSL level. I would expect this save to be made. He's literally 20 yards out. Plenty of time to analyze this ball. And again, that sounds critical. I'm not trying to be an ass by saying you should save, but I think you should save this ball.
You should save this.
For me, a save of the year is something that you actually you're the insurance policy, and you do something for your team that they didn't expect you to do, and you saved them. This I would expect this save to be made, and I'll take the criticism of, wow, you can't even credit a goalkeeper on a save. I think it's a good save, but I would expect the save to be made. I'd be critical if it went in.
Right, because that's exactly what I was going to say. Look at it from the other perspective. Had this ball gone in, then people would have been like, you need to be making that save.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? And so, that's a save that's in your wheelhouse. You should make that save. I agree with you, Sam. I think the save of the year should be something that changes the momentum for your team. That is a save that you shouldn't have made. Right. But it really influences the game as well. It's not just the save itself. Because you can make this save in the first 5 minutes of the game and your team could have won 4-0. Is it still the save of the year?
Right. Right.
Saves of the year are situational, pain in the butt for Argentina.
Right. What Emi Martinez did.
Although it was the save of the year, now nobody cares about it because he's such a jackass. But I think hey, bring it in, anybody that wants to argue about this and talk about this, I'm fine. But
I agree.
That's the save of the year to me because he kept Argentina in the game. Yes. And Argentina went on to win because of that save.
Yes.
Before we go on to that, I kind of want to bring that up because we never got a chance to talk about that last week when we had Charlie and Bo on talking about scouting. But since we are talking about 22 and moments of the 22, for those of you guys who don't know, what we're talking about is there were some certain antics that Emmy Martinez performed on the podium in front of billions of people that I'll be honest with you, Stan, if one of your FC United under 10s did that, they would be getting a talking to.
Well, 100%. And I had the audacity to receive a note from somebody who thought it was, we've become too buttoned up in our approach to, and I was like, whoa. This was the most immature, unnecessary, wrong. It doesn't look, we can all argue this point, and I'll go out on the limb of saying this. What happens in a locker room happens in a locker room. Now, there shouldn't be cameras in a locker room, and antics happen in a locker room.
Right.
That should not have happened where it happened. It was wrong. It was immature. It was unnecessary. It put a black mark on the World Cup, and not like the World Cup was bad because of this, but in that moment, it disrespected the people that put on the World Cup and awarded him that award. I thought it was very, very, the biggest word I've found to use for this is immature. I thought it was wrong and immature.
And I think for me, I had told Mike when I was like, you have the ability at that moment to have a platform. And I've seen comments that like, well, goalkeepers are crazy and everything like that. First of all, you disrespected goalkeepers out there. You disrespected kids that look up to you. What are you doing? Like, right. What is it? And maybe it was a stupid moment, but then to carry it on into the parade. Okay, so we talk about bullying and mental health. This is what's infuriated me. Right? Bullying and mental health, with the amount of suicides in college athletes, with the amount of everything going on right now from bullying. How is it okay that you're bullying as a grown man, another man? You're sitting there with a little infant baby with his picture on the face. You're talking crap about him. That's bullying. It's bullying. Yeah. And maybe, he's a grown enough, but what are you teaching young kids? That it's okay to do that to their competitors? We sit here and we're fighting against this tooth and nail. And this is okay. It's not okay with me. And I want nothing to do with him right now as a goalkeeper. Great save. Who cares?
His club coach has said that they are going to have a talk about it. That's great. I don't know why the federation allowed him to go through the parade with that. Maybe they weren't on that particular, 5 million people. They weren't on or near that bus or whatever. I don't know, but no, if I have my way, and again, often we don't have our way all the time. I would certainly be telling goalkeeper under my tutelage, no, that's not how we do it.
My other thing is this, FIFA out there, you were so not worried about with a hitch to condemn people for wearing a rainbow t-shirt and rainbow armbands and everything. And how dare you do something like that in a country that, they kill people for being gay, right? But you have no repercussions for a man that stood on a podium in front of a billion people and grabbed his penis. So nothing for that, right? Nothing.
Yep.
Yeah. Last thing I want to say on this is that, and I love the fact that you've all brought up mental health and bullying and all that stuff, because I think a lot of young parents, not even young parents, all parents and obviously, coaches and players out there too need to understand that bullying is not just the last player on your team or, the C team players getting bullied by the A team players or any sort of thing. You're talking about what he did right there at the parade. If Kylian Mbappe was not as mentally strong as he is, you could be looking at somebody who could be negatively affected for the rest of their lives from a moment like that, and you have to recognize that sort of thing when you're doing that, because in all fairness, it is just a game. And
it is just a game.
It is just a game. There's nothing better than listening to yourself.
Yeah. That's how I go to sleep at night. Is I just put Michael on.
Oh my
I don't
God.
think that was a compliment.
Soothes me to sleep. Yeah.
At first, I was very flattered, and then I was like, "Wait a second.
To put you to sleep.
What does that mean?" Oh,
Hey, how we doing?
Good,
man. Good. We'll just get this started here. Here we go. Hold on, let me take this thing off the screen here. Get these comments off here. Hide. I'm gonna hide those comments, and here we go. Happy New Year and welcome to Inside the 18. I'm Michael Magid, live from Hollywood, California. With me, ringing in 2023, the one and only 99 World Cup winner, Saskia Weber, who is not going hat today. She's sporting the hair down style.
I have a beanie on.
Oh, you got a beanie on. Okay.
It's cold here.
Oh my God. Speaking of cold, we got somebody who's experiencing the freeze over on the East Coast. We got the one and only, you know him as Everybody Soccer, Let's All Soccer, or GW assistant, Bill Reno. What's up, dude?
Hey, not too much. Hey, am I first for 2023? Am I kicking off the year with y'all? Is that
You are.
Let's go. All right. Okay.
Yeah, man. And I see you got a solid stash going for 2023 as well.
Yeah. My New Year's resolution was try to time travel back to the 70s. So that's this is what I'm going for here.
All right.
So.
Oh my
the
gosh.
intro should have been disco then, Mike.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah.
You know what's crazy is I just saw today on my computer when I was just doing random searches for TV shows that 90s show is coming out.
Oh wow, yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, that made me feel old because I remember watching that 70s show when that 90s show takes place.
Did they skip the 80s?
I think
they did
like
that 80s show.
They
did like a season, yeah.
Too. Yeah.
I was like, oh, I should have watched that.
Yeah. No one seemed to be that excited about that 80s show. That 90s show, though, that 90s show is just going to look like somebody doing like cosplay of the Friends, basically. Like that's basically what that.
It might be a little painful for me to watch that to think that this is old now, but
yeah.
Or you could watch old highlights of Saskia playing in the 90s. You could do that.
True. I don't.
90s show right there. There we go.
So,
I don't think the devices exist anymore to watch that on.
I was gonna ask, like, what film do you have of is it on VHS or what do you?
Oh yeah, it's on VHS.
That's awesome. You need to switch that over.
If you were really bougie back then, it's on Beta.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The smaller VHS tape. My parents have it all.
That's awesome.
Wait,
that's awesome.
What?
Hold on. Was Beta more expensive than VHS?
Beta was like a tighter, better quality, but it didn't last because nobody changes platforms that often. So.
Oh my God. Well, speaking of video, Bill Reno here breaks down a lot of video. He goes through a lot of different goalkeepers all over the world for a wonderful blog. So why don't you talk a little bit about Everybody Soccer real quick for anybody out there who may not know, despite the fact I think this might be the 6th time you've been on the show. You've been on here.
It's not 6. I would love it if it was 6. I think this is 3 or 4. Now I will say I think I've only caught Omar once, so I feel like Omar and I don't know if we have beef. I don't know what's going on there, but but I think this is 3 or 4.
It's at least 4. It's at least 4. It's got to be at least 4.
We'll say 4. Yeah. So basically, just kind of everything goalkeeping content is kind of where I've kind of melded in. It's kind of bounced around a couple of different areas and this and that, but a big survey of kind of goalkeeping, not only worldwide, but also in the US, and just trying to get out content that covers goalkeepers that maybe get overlooked for one reason or another. So I've kind of gone different routes with that, but that's kind of the big overarching. So but it's been a long journey up until this point, and I guess I'm doing something right if I'm coming back onto the podcast. So yeah.
I mean, dude, honestly, I'm not gonna lie, Bill. Like, I've used your blog to find goalkeepers to put on the show because I'm like, who who is this person right here? How I need to know more about this person. And then I reach out and they're like, yes, we would love to be on the show. No one reaches out to me. What's going on?
Good. Yeah. Well, it's just crazy. And like, I think the people at the top, and this makes sense to me, but the higher up you get, and Saskia, you've been in the college game, you can relate with this. Like, the higher up you move, the less you are going to be able to do with like the groundwork and scouting and doing this and that, and the more responsibilities you take, like you're just going to get disconnected from that. So I'm always thrilled to be a bridge in whatever context. So yeah, that's great. Yeah, thank you.
No, I mean, dude, it's great. And I think one of the really cool things, as well, and, and Saskia and I have obviously talked about this, is the fact that, Bill, that you cover the women's game just as intensely as the men's game. I mean, a lot of people out there, when they think, Saskia, on the women's side, they think NWSL or WSL in Europe, in England, and then they forget that there's all these other leagues out there, and there's some really good goalkeepers out there in those leagues.
Yeah, Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, but we talk about it all the time. And look at where some of the goalkeepers that are starting in the NWSL now went to go get games and play. And you would think they were forgotten, but they weren't. They were out there getting games in, whether it was like in, for Tigris, whether it was like in leagues that, aren't covered all the time, but people are watching. And, you have the Casey Murphys, and you have, they come back with that under their belt and all that experience under their belt. And now they're starting in the NWSL. So, they're out there and they're getting games in, and that's what's important.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Saskia, I'd be curious to hear, and I know like yours was a different time, but I feel like as someone who's come at this from more of like a publishing side of like, it was easy for me to write about the men's game because it was so everywhere. You find content nonstop, but right. On the women's game, admittedly, it's been in some sense more difficult, but also because I think the lack of coverage, it's actually been easier to connect with goalkeepers of, hey, they're excited about putting something out because, no one's talking about them. So I guess I'm curious on kind of coming from your end of how you felt that coverage has been for not only where you started, but how it's grown from there.
I mean, obviously I think it's grown. I think that the problem with coverage is it's still stuck to the marquee players. And so, when you see an article, when you see something, it's the Alex Morgans, it's the Megan Rapinos, it's the listeners and stuff like that. And you don't see coverage kind of like of that. I don't want to call them second tier because they're not, but of, a second tier in the minds of the viewer, not the marquee names. And I think the men aren't, although, the women are as famous as they are and as huge as they are, and we have, 4 world championships and everything. That's what marketing focuses on. But there's a whole nother group of women out there playing and keeping this alive. And then all of a sudden somebody's like, oh, who is this Sophia Smith kid? Well, just because you weren't covering her doesn't mean she wasn't out there kicking ass. So like, I think that's the disconnect there, where you can find coverage on somebody playing in the second division in Germany doing really well. You're not going to find that on one of our female players over in Germany playing either. You're going to have to search for it. So.
Yeah. Hey, it is interesting of like, sorry, Mike, I'm just derailing.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. Mike,
no, it's all good.
Mike just does the intro. It's us.
I just do the intro and then you guys talk. That's how it works. Well, every once in a while I put some clips up of players. Like, that's it.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, I was just thinking of like, I think on the men's side, people get this excitement that they almost have found this, like, well, what if this is the gym and the ref? Like, what if this is the Christian Pulisic that like, skyrockets to the top and, coming out of like Hershey, Pennsylvania, who would have guessed? But on the women's side, it's like that excitement doesn't exist, kind of like you're talking about there, but it does happen, so it's just,
it has to be something like monumental. I understand what you're saying. Like, it's not like, like you said, who is the next, the Freddie Adu or the Christian Pulisic or this or that or the other. And and the news tries to follow that. When you see a young player on the female side, it's because, a 14-year-old just signed a contract with Nike. And that's it.
It's funny that you said that because I'm just thinking of like an example, like a couple of years ago when when Bethany Balcer, exploded on the scene over at OL Reign. And the thing was that she came from an NAIA school. If that was happening on the men's side in MLS, that would be literally all over the place. They'd be talking about this rise from NAIA to the national team and all that sort of stuff, and unless you're an NWSL aficionado, you probably didn't hear about that story.
No, you're exactly right.
Yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. So I think, I hear a lot of critiques about the women's game, this, and that, which is always kind of frustrating to me because they get so little investment and coverage on the front end that whatever you could critique on the back end is just like, I don't like, what do you expect? Like, if you're getting this much out of this much that you could be getting, then like, why would you even be talking about the back end? Like, it's just irrelevant.
I'm gonna put it this way. Number one, like if there was trending back then in '99 and stuff like that, the only thing people talked about, like one of the main things people talked about after we won the World Cup was Brandy's bra, and it was ridiculous, and nothing else. Like it was Brandy's bra. Did she plan it? Did she do this and that and the other? And I think that again is a nod to mainstream media, where now what do you hear about with the NWSL? Well, this coach was dating this player, so now she quit. So this is going on, and it's that scandal, women in scandals, like the Real Housewives of the NWSL. And so I think that what's lost in there is like really focusing on like the players and who's coming up and those stories and the interest in those stories. And that is lost.
Yeah. And I will say this to any of the young players out there, and Bill, this because you're in the college game right now. How many young women out there, their social medias just look like reality shows, and you're doing yourself a disservice because you, as a coach coaching in college, sees that when you're going through the recruiting process.
Yeah, there unfortunately more and more examples are coming out that are dissuading young players on the women's side to go pro, and this is just one of the many of like, well, why would I go pro when I'm seeing that? Whereas on the men's side, it's always more of a glamour positive, but on the women's side, it's always this kind of dark spin of like, oof, like, can you believe that this is happening? So I, working with these young college athletes is, on one sense, I'm never really surprised why so many of them don't want to go pro. And I understand like it's a tough jump to make. I get that. And like the money is getting better, but it's still not amazing. Like I get all that, but it is frustrating. Like, man, we're like, my job is to like teach people to kick ass. And I want to see that continued on past college. I want them to fulfill their goal as much as they can. And so when someone goes in a different direction in life, happy for them, obviously. But that's the thing I'm always excited to see when someone's like, hey, I'm going to take this past the expected level of just college and really go see where I can go try my hand. So.
Yeah, well, I also think that the difference is that with the filtering of academies and everything for so long with the men and all of that, that's kind of what you're set up to do across the board. Like college isn't necessarily for men a filter to go pro, where college for women is more of a filter to go pro. But at the same time, what are you doing? You're getting a college education. And during that time, and you're realizing, hey, I just did pre-med at Stanford, and I'm going to come out and look at my parents in the face and say, I'm going to, hey, can I stay at the house while I play pro for 5 years and make $30,000 a year? Or can I go and, go work at Cedar Sinai. So it's like, so those decisions, it's a different type of issue and decision. And it's very rare that you see women not going to college, like the pews and stuff. But how rare is that? Where with men, it's totally different.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. One on the men's side, you see, there's so much delusion of like, oh, I could go pro. And, bless their hearts for some. I mean, you've got these D2, D3 down the bottom of like everyone thinks they can go pro on the men's side, and they're willing to take any jump at it possible and like throw away their education completely. But on the women's side, like that is just, it's a totally different world there. But it's, exactly.
I mean, look at Lauren Brzezinski is a great example. Like she was touted by a bunch of teams last year, and she decided to defer, get her master's, win a national championship at UCLA, and she's not entering the draft. I mean, it's public knowledge. So she didn't know UCLA player enter the draft or Carolina player, and she'll probably go pro overseas. But she made that decision to do another year of school, to get her master's and stuff. If you would have seen as many teams knocking on the door if you were a male, you would have been out. You would have been gone.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think that's a big reason why I'm excited about the second division coming in on the women's side, just to see like, okay, like it's exciting, but like, can we keep it afloat for more than a couple of years? Like, can we get actual traction to be a roadmap? Yeah.
The tough thing is turnover, and you know that, Mike. The things, it's look, I hate to tell you, but it comes down to financial and salary. And, you have your Sam Kerrs and people like that making a lot of money and, enough money this is their job and their career. But, it takes 22 people, if not more, on a team, 26, 27. And, after you're starting 11, that salary drops considerably. And no, they're not making enough to make a living. And sacrificing a lot. And I think that's why the turnover is what it is. And I think that's why longevity playing pro is very rare. I mean, Marta is like, I don't even know. I played against Marta. I mean, I'm just saying.
the Tom Brady of women's soccer, right there. Real quickly, Saskia, before we kind of move into the topic, and today's topic, guys, is going to be goalkeepers to watch throughout the world, guys. We're not just covering MLS or NWSL. We're also going to be looking at players in Europe and some youth players as well, too, that Bill is picked out right here. Obviously, a lot of people know that you're covering the draft next week. You're going to be over there with CBS and Paramount. Because of the fact that they kind of make it a big glitz and glamour type of affair, which is amazing. That's awesome. The fact that, people like yourself are out there covering it. Does that give these players a little a kind of a delusional state of like where they are in the pecking order because of how they're presenting all of this? I
don't know. I mean, look, the list isn't as long as you think of who, it's online, of who's like going into the draft. And like I said, a minute ago, like nobody from North Carolina is in the draft and nobody from UCLA is in the draft. And those are number 1 and 2 teams in the country. So that's interesting if you think about that. And so, because there is so much drive, you don't realize there's so many more leagues out there. I mean, Mary Carmen Moraes is going to Tigres, so you have to see now it's kind of diluting the pool a lot. And I think that goalkeepers, because we're talking about goalkeepers, have to make a serious decision whether they want to go and sit and not play for quite possibly a year, if not more, or if they want to say, hey, I'm going to go to one of these other teams in another country and I'm going to play and I'm going to play and play and play. And I'm going to play against the Sam Kerrs. I'm going to play against the Meademers. I'm going to play against them. And then when an Angel City or when Orlando or somebody comes knocking on the door, are they going to turn to the goalkeeper that was on the bench that hasn't played a second in 2 years, maybe one game here or one game there, or are they going to say, no, we need a starter, somebody that comes in and has the experience, so they're going to come knocking on the door at a Man City or something like that. Yeah. So I love the glitz and glamour, and it should be that way, just like the NFL does and stuff like that. And I think that highlights the league and the players, and I think that's awesome.
Absolutely. I don't think there's anything.
I got to bring my glam squad. I got to get my hair done next weekend. I'm stressed out about it.
And I'm excited to be there as well too. And I think that glitz and glamour. And to be honest with you, I think it's kind of disappointing that the men's side decided to forego the glitz and glamour they used to do of the draft, because I think it is something that's very, for lack of a better term, it's us. It's American. It's an American tradition, a collegiate amateur draft. And I don't understand why we need to go away with it just because the rest of the world doesn't do it. But I think it's
answering the question that you asked us in the beginning. Like, how do we get more how do we put these players that nobody knows, really, on the front foot, like in the forefront of things? And this is one of the ways, like with the draft on CBS Sports and Paramount Plus, and saying, well, who is this kid from Iowa? That, I don't watch their league. I don't watch anything, but who is this kid? She went 5th in the draft. I don't know who she is, but now she has a platform and now her name's out there.
Yeah.
Bill, I was going to say, it is kind of crazy of like someone that's a really great example of how someone can go from like nothing to something really quick. Mm-hmm. I'd like to see that like be caught on the front wave a little bit more, but I don't know if that's ever, I get that in every sport that happens. So fine. Yeah, fair enough.
Bill, quick question for you, because you do a lot of analysis, of goalkeepers around the world, and you coach in the women's game here in the United States at the Division I level. How do the goalkeepers in the Division I level, compare to some of the elite leagues in Europe?
Yeah, well, so when you say Division I, how many teams we got? 3, 42. It's
Yeah,
over
something like
300. Yeah. So when you say Division One, I don't that can be really misleading. I'd say this. If I were to break it into like top, let's say top 50 RPI, like those goalkeepers, like, and I think you see it happen. Like they go over to France and they can get minutes. Germany, like they haven't been really accepting of a lot of foreigners. It's a very German league. But it does happen. But yeah, I think the top 50, like I'm trying to think of a league that they've struggled to get in just talent wise, and I don't. There's definitely some teams like I don't think you could stroll into like PSG or something like that. Like those
but I think you're also looking at. You're talking about. The level isn't as high as it should be. It drops off.
Yeah.
And I think that there are only less than maybe a handful of goalkeepers that actually can go overseas. Because if you're going to go as a goalkeeper overseas, then you have to have an immediate impact. They're going to use that. They're going to use that ticket to either get a forward or a defender or somebody. And if you're a goalkeeper, then you better be like outstanding to go and take one of those spots. I mean, that's how it was for me. I didn't get accepted to go to Japan right away because they wanted field players. And so I think that, but I also think that the level drops off after a certain point in Division One. And only a couple, and you're also competing against the rest of the world, by the way.
Well, I'll say this, like the level drops off in D1 as much as it does in Europe. So like there's a reason
that's a good point too.
There's a reason why Americans go to like Albania. It's because like they can play at that level. Now, what's going to make you successful there is going to be like 50% talent and 50% like your commitment, your drive, ability to kind of live in a foreign country. Like I'm going to Japan, not easy, right? So it's the on-field stuff is just a fraction of it, really, at the end of the day. So
that's true.
Yeah, I say this: if someone really wants to go pro and they play D1 at any level, even like honestly, if you played college to like a decent level, like there's a place for you somewhere, but you may be playing on a cow pasture. I don't, so I don't know.
And you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Let's move into today's topic, guys. Obviously, it's talking about GKs to watch. That's why we got Bill here. First off, before we go into it and look at all the different goalkeepers that you're looking at, Bill, what are kind of your criterias when you're deciding who you put on your watch list?
Well, I guess specifically for this, I just try to find the most interesting ones. It's probably that. So like that can be for a number of different reasons. Of like, like the if there's like a narrative around a goalkeeper, like that's exciting. If like someone, I think you mentioned Lauren. Does she have another year, or is she for sure going?
No, she's done. She's
okay.
done.
I can remember. Like that's exciting. Or like the backup at UNC. She's transferring. I can't remember where she ended up at, but like that's an exciting storyline because it's like, wow, like you're really kind of doing something. You're on your own path. Like that's exciting. So narrative's always exciting. But if as far as like on-field talent, like if a goalkeeper has an ability to kind of improv, that's probably the big thing I'm really excited about. That when the play breaks down or there's a deflection, can you still figure it out, or are you so rigid that things get you can't think outside the box? That's the big thing I'm pretty excited about at the moment. So
well, I love that because this is such a great way for us to start right here with our first goalkeeper. Oh, whoops, hold on. I'm going to pull this. Speaking of improvisation right here.
Yeah, there you go. It's all part of it.
Yeah. So our first goalkeeper, everybody, is going to be Fallon Tullis-Joyce from OL Reign. Bill, why did you choose Fallon first?
Man, she's exciting. She's got the two components. She's got the narrative of like, she's one who went to France, kind of carved her own path out, came to the NWSL. I don't think anyone imagined she would be a starter. And then she just said, hey, like, this is my position. I'm going to take it. So like, that's exciting. On the field, she has a real sense of like, she attacks the game. It can get a little loose at times, but like, I'm always in favor of a goalkeeper, like putting pressure on the opposition as opposed to just kind of waiting back. So she has a really kind of exciting energy about like running at the game, although I know the goalkeeper doesn't really run a ton, but like she goes at it when she needs to. I think this play actually may show it here.
Yeah, so let's kind of go into this right here. Unless Saskia, anything you want to add about Fallon?
No, I love Fallon. You know that.
Okay. All right, cool. So I picked out some actions that kind of represent what Bill's talking about. This is one of my favorite actions of hers. It's in the 28th minute against NC Courage. Ryan Williams plays an in-swinging cross towards the back post that's met by Carson Pickett. It's a looping header. Fallon shift lateral. Look at that, pawing it right off after it's sailing towards the crossbar. That's the improvisational stuff you're talking about, Bill, right?
Yeah, I've never practiced that, and this is, I mean, as a goalkeeper like that, and like maybe some stuff similar of like back to bar stuff, but like that's something that she just kind of had to figure out in the moment, and like there's a lot of risk reward sort of that she has to figure out in a split second. So like, man, that's absolutely, that's a perfect clip there. So good job on finding that.
Yeah, I mean, and this goes into, we could really break this down like positional wise and this and that and the other, but this goes right to what you were talking about, is how do you make up for maybe being in the wrong position? Maybe she has incredible athleticism, right? This is an incredible example of it. Okay. And just doing what you can to keep the ball out of the net. And that's the mentality and the mindset you want in a player like this, and mind you, she makes this great save, but Fallon does so many other things. Like you said, she brings the game to the other team. She's confident back there. She instills confidence in her team and everything. This is an amazing athletic save and way to make up for maybe, positional and stuff like that. So this is what you want to see.
Yeah.
So
I was going to say, I think it's tough to find like correct position, which I think this goes back to something that really isn't explored a lot in American goalkeeper training. But like, she has to wager so many different things. Like maybe that header's coming on frame, be like, or maybe that's gonna, someone's gonna catch at an earlier point or later point. Like that's all things that she has to figure out. Like typically sessions are centered around like, oh, the shot is definitely happening here. You need to definitely be there, as opposed to like, well, maybe here, maybe there. So yeah, I think. Yeah,
and Fallon's actually a good example. What is Fallon, like 5'9"?
She's a little.
No, she's tall.
Is she?
Yeah, she's like I think 6 foot. I think so. Maybe she's short. Maybe she's a little shorter.
6'1".
Yeah. Well, yeah. Wow, check out me.
Okay.
I was like 5'11". I'm like, I'm 5'9" on a good day. So.
Yeah, 6'1". Yeah.
No, but it's yeah. Go ahead.
I want to bring this up really quickly, Bill, before we move on to this next clip of Fallon here, is that she's had success. Obviously, she came in the first year that she came in, from Stade de Rome over to OL Reign. She didn't get a lot of playing time. Sarah Bouhaddi was getting the time. Before that, it was Karen Bardsley who had come in for a short spell from Man City. But then this second year, she really, took the reins and became the overall number one. If she did not have that experience of playing, first off, she played in the second division first in France before she moved into the first division. If she didn't have that, would she be playing at the level that she's at right now? If she'd been, kind of, dug deep in a third string role, on NWSL.
Yeah, I mean, you never really know. I guess that's probably a question she has to answer for herself, to be honest. Like, I don't have the mental fortitude to be a 0-minute third string to like take that starting spot versus what she did. Like some things click for certain people and some things don't. So it's worked out for her, obviously, but there are times where people get a chance that are backups and, haven't really played, and it does work out. So that's a tough question. That's probably something I'll let her answer.
But I think I think this goes back to your point that it's not just about playing. It's about what you can handle being a pro. Like if you are third string, if you are second string, like what is your mentality? Are you bringing it every day in practice? Are you biting at the bit to get your chance? And when you get your chance, which might be few and far between, are you ready to go and showing your best? Because if not, they'll bring somebody else in. And so that's a testament to her going over to France, being able to be in the second division, work her way up, coming back here, not being the starter, and now the number one for OL Reign. And this is exactly the path that we're talking about. Keepers have to take a different path a lot of the time than field players do.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this as well. I've definitely seen keepers go overseas and they actually get worse because they don't have the structure. They don't have the goalkeeper coach. They're just left on their own. So like, it's not like you're saying, like, not only do keepers have to take a different path, but even inside that, they all have to find what works for them. Because maybe she would have been a better keeper in a more like rigid training environment. I don't know. I mean, it's obviously working out for her now.
And it's a good point. And goalkeepers looking over there, listening to go overseas, like, make sure you have those ducks in a row. You do have a lot of places to choose from. Make sure it's set up for you to succeed.
Yeah, no, I can't tell you how many times I've talked about, even on the men's side, when you talk to people who've gone overseas and they're like, oh, this is like when I was, because, a lot of people don't understand this, Bill and Saskia, is that, Division I, college soccer, the environment is very professional. I think a lot of people around the world don't understand that our university structure here is a very professional environment. So when you go overseas and you're playing in a third division, in some random country, you're like, what is this, AYSO? Like, because you don't know what you're getting into.
Yeah. Oh, I remember.
I want to show this real clip of Fallon really quickly here, because I think, Saskia, you're going to love this right here. This is in the 85th minute against Chicago. There's chase on her coming from a Red Stars player. She runs forward looking for options, and then she scans, and then she does a thing that's being lost in the game, and that she sails a punt with purpose, not just hits the ball, but with purpose, to Olivia Athens, I think it is, who is able to start a nice little counter for Rain right there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, and I do love it. But this is, again, a testament to being a professional. She's not just playing the save in the moment and dealing right now saves. She already had scanned the field. She already knew Olivia was making a run. And she's like, I'm going to get this down. I'm going to nail this. If I'm going to hit this right, and I'm going to send Olivia on her way. And I think that again, comes with playing, knowing your players and getting played in. If you're not getting games in, if you're not stuff, your timing might not be on with this. All you're focusing on is the here and now. That's the initial save. Then you're taking a pause. Then you're looking up, and Olivia's like, "Hit me the ball," and it's too late then, and stuff. So this comes with playing. It comes with knowing your team.
Yeah, I get like flashes of like Patrick Mahomes as she like gets like she's sprinting after she gets that ball, which is kind of crazy that she's like, most keepers like kind of slow down a little bit, but she's also hit it's not really a side volley. She's hit this like 3/4 volley where it looks like there's just a lot of like top spin, which is that's an interesting hit. I don't think I've ever seen anyone quite do that, because you can see how quick it dips down. So that's a fascinating, very unique, but it also like fits her. Like she's found what fits her, which is really cool.
And I love that you said that, Bill, because I think it's about being effective in the moment and finding what's going to work in the moment. And the reason I bring up the punt with purpose is because at the youth game, especially, Saskia, and this, is that, kids just hit punts with no purpose.
Right.
They use them as, as opposed to recognizing, well, what is the purpose of this pass? Is it a pass? Is it a clearance? What are you trying to do with this punt? Or my personal favorite, because everyone sees, the Edersons of the world nowadays, or the Kaylin Sheridans, and they put the ball down on the ground. Mm-hmm. It's like, you just had the ball in your hands.
Yeah, well, there's some people, I will back up. There's some people that hit a better ball with purpose from the ground. And so I, like, if this was a Lauren, I wouldn't have a problem if she did a quick roll to herself and knocked a driven ball, because I think with her that it would probably be as effective and right on point. I think that it depends on, like Bill said, it depends on what works for you and is effective. Like, this isn't like a standard side volley or anything, but this works for her. If this is a Timmy Howard, that's a throw. Right? Yeah. That's a throw and a goal, and we're on to the next round of the World Cup. Yeah. So I think that it's what works for you. But again, I get back to the fact that you are the first pass on attack. And that's that mentality. Like, how can I affect this game, not just defensively, but offensively as well? And that's what you want to see in today's goalkeeper.
Yep.
Absolutely. Speaking of today's goalkeepers, I want to move on to this next clip right here. Boom. Once
flawless
this is over.
Transition, as always.
I'm trying to do what I can here. And we're talking about Chris Brady now. We're going over to the men's side. We're going to MLS right now. Chris Brady, 18 years old, over at Chicago Fire, will probably be taking over for Gaga Slonina, who is now over at Chelsea Football Club, or as we like to call it, the Lone Army of Chelsea Football Club, probably at some point within the next few weeks. There's 90 people on loan. Anyway, very exciting times for Gaga, though. Congrats to him. But Chris Brady, also huge upside, right?
Yeah, I think you look at the situation that like you had two young goalkeepers coming up. I mean, I would argue there's more pressure on Brady than there was Slonina, because Slonina is like he's a first, so if it doesn't work, well, he's not first, but he's first in a while. So if it doesn't work out, like okay, yeah, but like
I was like Fallon's playing in the MLS.
There's a wrong clip up there.
Yeah, Brady's got pressure on him to not only like do what Slonina did, but also he has to do it kind of his own way. So it would be easy for him to play exactly like Slonina, which they are similar, but there definitely are some differences in there. And as we just saw with Fallon finding her own kind of punting style, like I don't think I've ever really seen anyone hit just like that. So so Brady's got to find what works for him and match what's already been done, which the standard is get to Chelsea, that's tough to match. So
yeah, that's definitely tough to match. I think Saskia's dogs are agreeing.
Yeah,
the dogs are agreeing.
All right, let's pull this up right here. So let's go to this clip of Chris right here. Okay, so this is I think his very first start. I believe Bill in MLS, and this is against New England, and it's in the 3rd minute. And Gustavo Bau plays a ball at an angle to Giacomo Vrioni. I'm not even going to try to do that. Okay. That sounded terrible the way I did that. Who tries to beat Chris, and he takes an aggressive position. By aggressive, I mean extremely aggressive position. But he kind of botches it, recovers quickly, holds position, realizes, as Saskia says, don't follow one mistake with the second mistake, stays disciplined, and it leads to the first save. Boom, right
there. I think that whole play, like Slonina probably plays that a step less. So like Brady like really gets in his face there. I think Slonina probably takes a step less and gets set there. But it is interesting that like Brady stays out there. I think you see all these goalkeepers start sprinting back to the goal, but he's just like, well, I'm out here now. I guess I'll stay here. So and especially, I mean, if that's his first start, which I think it is, like how nervous is he? So that's a tough play.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily like whether, I would say on this through ball, he should have come and gone hands to the ball first and smothered it. But what he didn't do is stop there, right? He realized he's committed and he kept big. Now he bit, but honestly, he's pushing him wide. So I think that, and again, yes, he didn't just all of a sudden back up and hope his defender came and saved him, right? He's like, well, I'm the defender out here and let me slow this down. And look how many players he has coming to recover, right? Yeah. So what do I always say? Like one of the best things you can do is to slow down that attack, allow your defenders to come back because it forces that attacker to under pressure. Okay, I got to get rid of this ball. I got to make something. He's got nobody to go to.
Yeah.
And so I have no problem with this. I mean, yes, get the first ball, but still fine.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing I just want to add to this right here, and again, we're nitpicking here, guys. We're nitpicking here, but Saskia, like you said, like a hands to the ball here, probably is one. The fact that he tries to
it's a little tough though because the ball is actually still going away from him.
Yeah.
So watch the angle of the ball. And I think that's where he's like, I think his thought was to do that. And now he's like, wait, the ball's on his outside foot. So it's going away from me. So it's not really actually a threat, too much of a threat on goal. I think my mentality is because what we're talking about is what players are bringing. This is his first game. And so I like that he didn't hesitate. I like that he made a decision and stuck with it, where, you might have the butterflies, you might have this, and that might force you to make the wrong mistake. And he didn't. He's like, all right, I've committed to this. How do I fix it?
Yeah. I think something that probably gets lost for our modern viewers is when your game, Saskia, like you growing up, your set position was almost like a runner of like in this situation where the ball's outside the 18, like you're ready to go get it. Whereas like he's set as if like a shot's coming. So, and there's differences in the game. I understand like why someone gets set like that, but like for keepers in the 20th century. Like they're ready to sprint out. Like look how long it takes for him to actually move forward off this ball. But
yes,
in your game,
and
like you're moving
and
then, not, and he's still
well,
set.
and I'm like, in my mentality, I'm like, oh my God, please pass that ball. Like I am all over it because number one, there is no shot there because the defender has body position on 7. So you're right. I was sitting there going like, come on, play that ball. I am all over it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, one thing I do want to bring up right here before we move on to the next clip, and for young players out there listening, is that, you know, and one of the qualities that I really like is that if you are already out there in kind of quote unquote no man's land and you're in close space with the player, you're the first defender. So it's about pressure. It's not about making a save. It's about putting immediate pressure on the player to delay and force a reaction, essentially.
Yeah. Always bet on yourself. Yeah.
All right, let's move on to this next clip right here. And there's the save. Boom. And okay. Oh, there he goes. He's not happy. Very disappointed.
Windy game.
Okay. All right. So this is the simple 7th minute. It's a simple pass back by Miguel Navarro to Chris. He shifts. Chase starts coming, and then ball onto midfield. Very simple. Ball into the midfield right there, but I want everyone to see kind of what happened. Again, first start ever in MLS. Ball's played back to him. He touches and drops back to allow himself time. Scans, recognizes Chase coming middle, waits, and then lifts over. Thoughts, Bill?
Yeah, you know, anytime you're playing against like a 2 front like that, like your center backs are going to have trouble. Like there's a reason why I think he probably wants to play safer here as any keeper does, and just like a connect pass. But like his short passes are difficult here, so he doesn't dilly dally, which is good, and he just kind of plays this ball. I don't love the turnover, but I think this is part of the risk reward of like playing out of the back. So like, you know, I get it.
I like the fact that in your first start, he didn't feel that he had to force the short pass. He made his own decision. He goes, you know what? I got 5 of their attackers in my defensive third. If I keep trying to play this, knock this ball around, this is going to turn into a debacle. Now, that being said, I agree with you. I don't like the decision just to flight this up to the center of the field either. Like if you're going to send that to nobody, basically, then that's got to go wide into the spaces and knock the ball and have their defenders running towards their own goal. He has the ability to do that, and that's the right decision in this play. So one decision, yes, not to force the short pass. Second decision, not so good.
Okay. Yeah. I think, is there a Chicago player out of picture to the right, or is there like a 40 he's trying to hit there?
No, see the space?
Oh, that's just okay. Well, I guess he just I'd be curious to hear from his perspective of like what he was going for there.
Yeah.
So, Chris, if you'd like to come on and talk about this play, feel free.
But again, it's don't make that huge first mistake, like by forcing the short pass, because that's what your team does, you know. And what you want to see in a professional keeper and keepers that are stepping into the pro game is to be able to make these decisions regardless of what the team philosophy is. Like, you know, we're only playing short out of the back. We want to work the ball at the back. We want to control possession. Well, sometimes it's the wrong decision. And you have to be able to strong enough with your mentality and your leadership to make that decision as a goalkeeper.
Yeah. Speaking of leadership, I want to move on. Look at these transitions right here. So somebody who was pegged to be the number 1 for England sooner rather than later, and that's Ellie Roebuck of Manchester City. Bill, obviously a lot of people have been talking about Ellie for years and years and years since she broke onto the scene as a young goalkeeper, now 23 years old, I believe. Why is she on your list for this coming year?
Well, it's probably more for narrative at this point, to be honest. I thought she was flying before her injury, which was at the end of last year. And so she's been playing for most of this year. But to be honest, it's been a little in and out for me. I'm not quite sure if it's like lingering physical. I don't know if it's mental. I mean, for me, she should have been the goalkeeper for this last like run with the national team. Like, Mary Earp's, like, respect to her, but like I think it really should have been Roebuck's if she was playing at the level that she should have been. So I'm not quite sure. I'm just very curious to see, okay, well, what's going to happen? Like, Man City's put a lot of time and effort into this young keeper. In some sense, she's kind of a pioneer in that way. Like, what other female goalkeeper has had as much time and effort from a club that Roebuck has had? Like, I can't think of one. So, very curious to see what happens here. But I mean, she's got talent. It's just kind of like a little bit of this, and so I'm curious to see, like, okay, like, can 23, can she reset a little bit? Can she really challenge for the number one spot? Because in my opinion, it should be hers.
Yeah, I mean, before we kind of move on to the clip here, Saskia, obviously we were watching some Mary Earp's, highlights last week with Stan, kind of breaking down, 2022, and, congratulations again to England, for winning the Euros. But, when you're in a situation like that, Saskia, as a country like England, who's potentially looking to win a competition, and there's a veteran that's healthy versus, somebody with maybe a higher ceiling, I think you got to go with the safe hand.
Well, I think I told you last week, I think at this point, this close to the World Cup, I think everybody should be shoring up who's their starting goalkeeper is. There shouldn't be a question anymore. I think, I mean, I know coming into the U.S. friendlies and stuff, maybe there still is, but I think it's got in the coach's mind, it has to be kind of shored up. Now, that being said, you always want a number 2 that's really going to push. So it should be a number 1 and a number 1.5. That's what I always say. Like, and, being able to play for Man City and in front of, with that pressure and against the quality of the people she's playing against, she can challenge for that. And they have a good problem. That's what you want to see. That's what you want to have, this problem going into a World Cup, that you have just 2 quality goalkeepers. Even though one's a veteran, you have 2 quality goalkeepers. Same that we have. You have Nair, and then you have Murphy, and Franch probably again. And so you want this problem. It's a good problem to have.
I want to say this real quick before we go into this clip right here, Bill, is that it's not just Ellie Roebuck. You've got also, Hannah Hampton and Sandy McIver, who are all around the exact same age right there. So you've got 3 goalkeepers who could potentially be the number 1 when Mary Earps, is usurped, that kind of rhymes. That's weird.
Yeah. I'll be honest. I think if Roebuck is at her ceiling, like, she kind of blows the other 2 out of the water. I think those Hampton and McIver are respectable keepers. I don't want to put them down, but, like, for me, there's a bit of a tier gap there. But again, it's that lack of consistency. I think we can go back to look at this last year from her and say, like, there's a few too many poor moments. So I think, I'd be surprised if they moved off Earps for 23 here, but I guess it could happen. I don't know.
Yeah, let's see this here right here. So this is Man U versus Man City. Talk about the derby, red versus blue. Obviously, kind of a big deal. Ball is caught across from the wide channel to Thomas, who gets a clean header with power. Simple drop step by Roebuck when she decides not to come out. Leads to a fantastic save, and I love the eye tracking to hold on to the ball after it pops up. This happens really fast. So I want to show everybody again here. This moment right here. So ball's crossed in.
I'll actually say on this, I think she misplays this a bit. They may hit her in the chest, to be honest. I don't know if, I guess that's a save, but I think she makes.
This is one of those things where I don't call it a save. I say you got hit by the ball.
Yeah.
I think she got lucky in this. I think with her starting position, she should have had a better starting position and cleaned house on this. Yeah. This ball drops at the 4, not like the 4 to 3.5. Like, and it's got time. I think she misplays this this as well.
Well, she's starting a little deep there. Yeah, I think this again goes back to the consistency. I think she does a good job to track it. I'll give you that, Michael. But yeah, I think she makes this much, much more difficult. If that's anywhere off her body, I think she's beat.
Okay. I will say the one thing is she does keep positive shape forward. So young goalkeepers take note. If you do get caught out of position, if you keep your body forward, good things can happen.
Excuse me, but I will also say she didn't do what a lot of young goalkeepers do. Say, oh, I should have come and then come, right? So she didn't, I think if you asked her, she says, I should have come, got a solid box to that, cleaned house and everything like that. But what you see a lot of keepers do is know they should have come and then come late. And now she jumps behind the Man United. She jumps behind the player and it's an easy open goal. So one mistake not followed by another mistake.
Very true, very true. Yeah,
No.
sort of stuff. I'm always curious. Like, okay, she's having kind of double thought. Well, why is it? Like, is she playing with low confidence? Is there a nagging injury? Does she just misread the one play? Like, what is it
she
that like?
Started to come though.
Yeah, like so she's having like two different thoughts in her head, which is like at this level, like that's not what you want. So
I will give her that she started to come and realized I'm totally in no man's land and took a drop step. But yeah, she made this much more difficult to be.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, I hear you, man. Man, it's almost as if I have two really good pundits on the show right now.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm gonna guess the broadcast was like either something of like, oh wow, like best save in the world, or like not even making any remark about the save at all. Like it just seems like in game, like it's just all this drastic like either or options for commentators.
Well, we know when it comes to play-by-play from most broadcasters, that's why they're starting to hire goalkeepers to come in and do color commentary as well too. Is they will just only remark about the goalkeeper if it's a situation where they're completely out of position, make the wrong decision, and athletically make a wonderful save, and then they talk about how great they are. Or it's a simple situation and it goes through their legs or whatever, and they just talk about how a disaster they are. So it's nice to have some people out there that actually have the ability to talk about this in context. Okay, let's move on to this distribution play right here of Ellie, because this is one of the things that you really like about her, Bill, is the fact that she asks for the ball. She wants it at her feet. So, and this is in the 20th minute against Chile. It's a direct pass back by Steph Houghton. It's a prep touch away from Chase. And then it's a really confident ball, a little bit different than Chris. This actually gets to her player. And then that leads to a wonderful counter by England. Let's go through that again here.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to loft a ball like that in the middle of the field, like you've got some real confidence on your teammate. But I think you can see like there's a lot of space in the field. So in some sense, I think she kind of knows what she's doing. But this is maybe I don't know if I would really recommend this to anyone, because there's so many things that can just go wrong here. But like this works out great. We're happy for it. But like this is big confidence. She maybe gets under a little bit more than she wants, because that hangs for a bit. But it seems like it's all like it's almost by design by how everyone moves off of it. So I'm gonna guess this isn't the first time she's done this.
Okay, thoughts, Usk?
I agree. I think a lot of things could have gone wrong here. I think had who was it, the Chilean player been on point and tracked into the attacking third here, then this could have been a 50-50 ball, and you have numbers for Chile, and it could be right back down your throat. I think maybe this was by design as well. The way her 10 dropped to get it really quick, and then everybody ran off of it. I wouldn't recommend it often, but they got it done. So
yeah. I mean, I think a lot of it's like she knows that. I don't know who the forward is coming to get that ball, but like that she knows that she's gonna be able to handle this one way or another. So like just a lot of trust there. So
yeah, no, I mean, and then in the swarm, I mean, obviously, it's high quality, but I will say this, when we're talking about if a goalkeeper is asking for the ball back, and they're going to make a decision, at least she's clear on her decision. She's not waffling in any way whatsoever. She's like,
she has made her decision for certain. Yeah, I bet, and this is part of like, if you really want a keeper playing on the back, like it's easy for us to kind of snipe these one plays and say this and that, but like if you really want a keeper to want the ball, I mean, to be honest, the big reason why Fallon kind of took a little bit to rise is because her distribution wasn't great, and so she took time to kind of get that under her belt, and like there's always going to be growing pains with that sort of stuff. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that is absolutely true. I want to pull this up now here. So speaking of goalkeepers to watch here, Barcelona always produces high-level players in the youth ranks, and this is someone that probably a lot of people are not familiar with. And that's how do you pronounce it? Is it Arnau Tenas?
I think you have one too many A's there.
Okay.
Arnau, yeah, A-R-N-A-U. Yeah, Arnau Tenas, yeah. But I'll say this, like I think the direction Spain and most, notably Barcelona is going with their goalkeepers is like hypermobile, big considerers of like decision making. It's almost like a spinning plate sort of feeling with them of like they're keeping so many things in the mix of like, okay, what's the cutback? Is this a shot? Is this like, how's my movement? It's very, very thought out and complex in that sense. So I think tennis is close to blowing up. He's 21, and I think he's legit. So that's why I threw his name forward.
I mean, look, I'll say this, and Saskia probably knows this as well too. If Barcelona puts $100 million release clause on you, they probably believe in you.
Yeah. It's it's cool to like to see. I mean, how rare is that to see so much? I mean, he's 21. I mean, you don't. That's just so rare to maybe the only time ever. I don't know. That's crazy.
But the thing
rare.
that does, yeah. And I was going to say the only thing that's
like goalkeepers are like wine. Red wine. They get better with age, hopefully, and experience. So,
I will say this before we go on to this clip right here, Bill, and this is kind of concerning me, is that whenever I see hype for a young goalkeeper at such a young age, especially at big clubs like this, it's the Kepa factor that kind of freaks me out. Obviously, Kepa's now kind of establishing himself as a number one over at Chelsea, beating out Mendy. But for a long time, people were saying he was washed out at 23.
Yeah. It's same in the college. I mean, much smaller scale, but same in the college game. If you're going to give a full ride to someone, like you need to make sure that they are prepared to succeed. And I think you look at Kepa, like his style changed when he came to England. Like he went from this hypermobile decision making kind of player to just trying to do everything in power and be as explosive, and it just didn't work for him. And now he's kind of finding back a little bit more of a middle ground there. So if you're going to invest, like you can't just invest and say like, okay, go do it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. The Soccernomics book, that was something that really dropped my attention when I read it 10 years ago. I was like, man, that's actually a wonderful point of bringing in a foreign player. Like you can't just say, go do it. Like they've got to be able to be comfortable off the field, this and that.
That's such a great point. All right, let's move on to this. So this is the 90th minute. This is playing for Barcelona B, and I want a lot of people to understand that like that's still a very good level. Don't think like like Barcelona B. I was like, what is he, like junior varsity? It's like no, it's a very good level here. So the ball's played over the top from oncoming forward from NES. He approaches despite the fact that there's chased by two players right here. He waits, reacts, and with body shifting away from danger, improvises and just kind of steers that ball away with his body. But he plays it away from space, which I really like.
Yeah, I think in some sense he controls his positioning here, right? So he could drop back in and let his defenders get in. I think he knows a shot's coming one way or another. So I think he thinks, okay, for me, I do better in this close range sort of stuff, and he feels comfortable there. It's probably enough of a micro movement to think about as the deflect to go out there, but in some sense, he's probably also a little lucky with. I mean, the power is just gonna bounce somewhere. So, yeah.
Thoughts, Susk?
No, I agree. I mean, I think he ends up setting on his heels, so he doesn't have a choice but to go down with his feet and in a case save. I think that even if he stayed big, I don't have a problem with this at all. And I think he committed to saying, I agree with you 100%, Bill. He's like, I'm better close range. If I stay here, I'm leaving too much space, whether it's near post low, high post, far post, everything at this level, this quality, you're going to get beat. So I think he says, look, my best bet right now is to close the distance. So this is more of a reaction save and I have more of a chance here. So I think he made the decision seeing where he was starting from.
Yeah.
He made the right decision.
Question for you, Susk.
Yeah, like if you see where he's starting from, some goalkeepers would have stayed, and I think they get blown away. He's at the top of the six. So this takes you stay at the top of the six. You're
he's also gone back from. He's probably top the 18th at the start of this play, and then he goes back and then come forward. So a lot of movement.
Yeah.
I will say this though, Susk. I just have a question for you, because if you have chase by a player like that, do you worry about a player coming in and essentially taking up space and kind of making a mess of it because this player already has this player kind of
I think by retreating, he gave his players time to come. Now, because 5 got back, it forces it forces him to make a shot. He can't take another touch. If he tries to dribble him, you've got 5 right there to defend and everything. So by retreating, it gave his defense time to recover. Now the forward 29's under the pressure to make a shot. He's got to do something with the ball. So yeah. I think handled well, considering it's not easy to go negative and then positive again. So
no,
you know.
Yeah. Very true. I want to play this last clip of tennis right here because we were talking about, distribution here. This is a 40th minute. It's a pass back, patience till the chase, and then it's a driven ball. Look at that ball. That is unreal. Yeah, and just like Saskia was talking about where you play that ball, you play it into the wide channels right there. So I don't know if you can physically see it on the tape here, but look at how that ball sails across the line wide like that.
The fact that the ball is so fast that the cameraman can't quite keep up with it is kind of telling, to be honest. But look, he's in a very relaxed standing position, and then immediately, man, that's very Ederson-esque.
It's
unreal.
Yeah. And I think that, again, if you're in those situations where you're going to play that long ball, make sure that it's into the space so their defense is running towards their own goal. It's what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Don't loft the ball so that it's easily collected and pinged right back at you.
Yeah. That's
My
such a
dogs
great
are
point.
going crazy right now.
Well, because they agree with you completely.
They do. They're like, nice ball.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. I know we're going to start wrapping up here, guys. We're going to go a couple players in the youth game, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but I still consider college the youth game because they're still technically amateurs. And this is Leah Freeman, who's been in the news lately. Bill, obviously she was Pac-12 goalkeeper of the year over at University of Oregon. I think she set the record over at Oregon and has decided now to take her talents not to South Beach but to Duke University to finish off her college career. First off, thoughts on that transfer?
Well, I heard one coach call it like the rich get richer. I guess that's kind of true. I don't know. Top players are going to want to go to top programs, so I get it. I'll say this. I think my big question for her is at Oregon, she had a different role than she's going to have at Duke. At Oregon, lots of shot stopping, constant defending there. Duke, you're not going to see as many shots. So can she still be impactful, but taking on a different role? And that's very, very difficult. Some keepers can and can't. So that's the thing I'm very curious about. But she put out something that was pretty generic as far as why she was transferring, which I guess that's all you can do. So, I'm curious to hear her talk about it in 3 or 5 years. So that's when the juice starts coming out.
So let's break down some of these plays right here, because I know Siskia's jumping at the bit to see some of these of Leah.
No, I think it's more. I think it's more for me. I would like to know deeper why the transfer. You're at the top of your game. Pac-12. Pac-12's right now the best conference in the country, arguably that in the ACC. So you're going from one of the best to the other best. I agree 100%. You're shutout leader, everything. So you are getting played in. Now, can Oregon win a national championship? Are you going to do because you want to win a national championship? I don't know. So it's what is that you're getting out of this transfer? Because for me, I'm looking at who's getting the play. If you're going to Duke and you end up with 10 saves all season, hypothetically, but you're at Oregon, you're making 10 saves a game, and you're still shutout leader, and you're still Pac-12 player of the year, and you have a role in your team's success, that goes so far if you want to play after. Now, if you want to go to Duke because you want it's school, then that's fine too. I'm not taking that away from you.
I'll be honest with you. From all the from all the content I've seen of Leah, within the last couple of years and everything like that, Bill, whether she played at Duke, Oregon, Hofstra, wherever she chose to play, I still saw the potential, ceiling wise to play at the professional level and potentially at the national team level. So, it is definitely, something in the Saskia, you've discussed this before as well too, is that, just because, if you're good enough, you'll play, if you're good enough, you'll play. So
with everything, with the amount of outlets, you're gonna be seen. I mean, you're in the Pac-12. I have nothing wrong with it. If you want to transfer to Duke, transfer to Duke. I'm on with Bill. I'm just wondering why. It's not like I feel like you're not at not a low, I don't want to say a low division, but like a more obscure division or like conference where you're not playing against quality opponents. So let's say you're in a conference where the people you're playing against really aren't challenging you, but you're in the Pac-12.
Yeah.
So
as we're just literally going to.
That's not the fact.
We're literally going to see right now. So like this is in the 85th minute. 79th minute against Stanford. Williams pushes the ball in front. Freeman holds position, and then it's a push away recovery.
It's a good save.
Boom, pounce on that right there. But what I really love about this play right here is that she doesn't bite. She stays, and then she's obstructed view right here because there's chase on that ball. She can't see it till that last minute. And now she steers it in a good area that she can still pounce on that ball.
Well, I think she mishandled it, but
okay.
I think what she did well was delay. Like, you're right. She didn't bite. She knew she had near post covered. She has her defender, her Oregon defender coming across. She's got one on the ball. So she doesn't make a mess of this. She makes it, let's see what my defenders can force this attacker to do. And if she's forcing an obvious shot, far post and everything, and gets on it. Two hands to the ball, you hold on to the ball, and you don't have a deflection.
Yeah, her shape, she's like, I think she's expecting a potential like slotted ball, so she's not really squared up on her. So she's just like 15 degrees turned to her right or left. I don't love that she's kind of teeter-tottering with her weight. So you can,
and you can see it with her hands too.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, so like it's a back-footed dive, but like this is something where like you either can make the save or you can't. Like it's, there's things we can nitpick at this, but like the reality is like very few keepers are going to make that save. So
it's a good save. Period.
Yeah. Save. So she can clean up a little bit, but like it's exciting when you can do stuff like that, that's kind of why I think people need to know her name.
It's a really good save.
I mean, I will be straight up honest. I think one thing that a lot of people lose out on, and we can talk technical movement and fundamentals and all that stuff, but to play at that next level, it takes athleticism, and this is a very athletic save, getting down low like that and obstructed, being able to react so quickly like that. In my opinion. All right, let's move on. I know we're running long here, so look at that. She's happy with that. So this is the 85th minute. It's a square ball across from Samantha Williams into the box. This is Stanford again, where Ali Montoya breaks through, and Freeman comes out aggressively, maybe a little unorthodox, but basically forces her to make a play. And because of that, she paws this ball away. I think a brilliant decision to come off like that. Let's see that again as that square ball's played across.
This is a real, like, we talked about this earlier, but this is a real, like, 90s save. Like, I feel like I've seen a lot of older keepers like
Saskia Weber make the save.
Like, like they're just gonna. And now I think she's sitting a little deep, which like makes her life a little more difficult. But like she's like, well, I'm just gonna go put pressure on her and go run at her. Is it like orthodox? Like, I don't know, but like, it feels very. I know it's not a penalty, but it feels very Scurry-esque. This save here.
Scurry-esque. I like that. Athleticism.
Yeah.
I do, because I think that if we broke this down into technique and goalkeeping, I think that this could have gone wrong in a lot of ways. If she doesn't go at that height, she's already committed. She's coming out. She doesn't set. She just kind of runs, and she puts it in a good height to make a good save for the goalkeeper. I think she slats it on her other side. If she keeps it low, it's a goal. Athleticism. And, sometimes that is the next level. You're not going to make the right decision every time. You're not going to have perfect set position, perfect micro movements. It's not going to be there. But if you can make up for that and make a great save through athleticism, that is needed, period.
Yeah.
I mean, I also want to know why her defense was so tight, but that's deep. But those are other things. That's me. That's my mentality. But hey, very Scurry-esque.
It very is. Yeah, very true. Very true. Yeah.
I mean, I do want to say this, real quickly before we move on to this. Saskia, I see this at the youth level all the time. This player just running at the ball like that, and it works for them. No. I'm talking about the goalkeeper running out like that, and it works for them because they're just more athletic than the players they're playing against. They're just
and
bigger,
that's what I
stronger,
said.
faster.
I mean, we can break this down, and if I was your goalkeeper coach, we could go back in and say, all right, you came up with the save, right? 9 times out of 10, you might not. What would we do the other 9 times? Like, let's talk about this. But that's why you need, like you said, Mike. At a higher level, you still have to be a great athlete.
All right, let's wrap this up, Bill. With our
I was like, what, the defender running at the ball? What's he doing?
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta go back and watch the defender. She just just gets to run right by. Watch.
Yes.
Yeah.
We won't say who that is. I'll know who that is. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. All right, let's move on there. She's very animated about it. Okay, so last player right here. I'm not gonna lie, Bill, I did not know anything about this player right here.
Perfect.
This was a deep cut that you threw at us right here. This is Paul Walters playing at Northwestern University. 19 years old, so he's a freshman this year at Northwestern. Was playing in the FC Cincinnati program. Why this guy?
So I went to Cincinnati, and I hope I don't get myself in trouble here, but I went to Cincinnati for a little college combine that they ran a couple weekends ago. Paul came out to it, which that's all public. But I'll say this, like, I don't think Paul, who's 19, really was a step behind. Yeah, he was like top half of a largely senior junior group. He's very crafted. He knows what he wants to do. There's things to work on for sure. I don't know like how the MLS draft is going to work going forward. I've heard like rumblings that they may start letting underclassmen come in, which I think would probably be good for him in this situation. I don't know what his training environment is like, but I'll say this, like overwhelmingly, a lot of the goalkeepers talked about not having a great training environment in college. And I think we kind of see it by the time they get to their 4th, 5th, 6th year that they haven't been trained great. And so, I don't know what Northwestern's like. I don't want to speak on that, but he's talented. He played really well. He has a clear blueprint for himself. I always have a lot of respect for keepers who do the thing that they want to do in goal, because it's really difficult.
So let's do this right here. I want to play this because, Bill, one of the things that you said about him was just how crafted he was and just how clean he was. So I want to show this basically. This is an in-swinging ball. The dribble inside by Josh Kidder from Milwaukee, and it's an in-swinging ball, in towards traffic. It's a slight skip off Ari Johansson right there, and it's a smart takedown after he cleans it up, protects it, clears out his team, looks for the right decision. Instead of booting this ball, it's a simple bowl direct because he found the player right there. I mean, again, he's not the most exciting play, but I think this really showcases how clean this guy is and how composed and controlled he is.
Yeah, it's a little odd catch of like, there's almost like a receiver in football trying to make that play. But he does the thing he wants to do, kind of move some pieces here, create some space for himself. I don't know the rest of the field what it looks like, but yeah, he for as nervy of a moment that is, he definitely doesn't show it.
No, I'd be panicking right there. And Saskia, I'm sure, you at the college level and at the youth level, you've seen players just freaking out in this situation. Well,
I think he judges it well, because had nine gotten something on this, he had committed to where this ball was dropping, and he could have ran right by. Boom. See that? He had already committed. Mm-hmm. I also think his positioning, establishing it with his size, is saying, yeah, go ahead. You're not playing the ball in this area. And so, that's what you want to see as a goalkeeper. And for everybody out there, it's also your presence. And we've talked about this a lot. Like, are you controlling and dictating what the other team does because of your presence? Because when they look up, they see you in spaces where they wanted to put a ball. And they're like, gosh, we got to pull this out a little bit, or I can't flight the box as much as I thought I could. She's got this covered. He's got this covered. So you change their mentality on how they're coming at you. And that's the next level. So you're making saves without making a save.
Yeah. I I know we're running along here, guys, so we're going to start wrapping up right here. Bill, thanks for making this list, man. This is really awesome.
Absolutely.
Very, very awesome. I mean, again, some goalkeepers that I think some of us were familiar with and some that we were not familiar with. So I think that's one of the really cool things about your blog when you check it out, that it's pretty amazing. If people want to connect with you directly, are you going to be at convention next week? I'm not. No,
but I'm going to be picking his brain the rest of the week till I have to go there.
Good, absolutely. Yeah.
I am. Trust me, you're getting a list and I'm going to be like, talk to me.
Good. That sounds great. Please do. Yeah. I think the easiest way for people to reach out is Twitter. We'll see if it still exists in a year or not, but so far Twitter.
Well, you've got your Union account. People can start DMing you there because that's definitely going around. That's sticking around. That's not leaving. Right. That's not leaving. And if you want to connect with us, guys, we're going to be at Podcast Row over in Philadelphia next week. That is January 11th through the 14th. Saskia is also going to be there covering the NWSL draft. So say hello to her if you're over by the draft. And if you want to reach out to us before that, go to the Union platform, guys. It's a free soccer community on all platforms. That is the link right there. It's a smart link. Share your own content on there. DM us there. Stop DMing us on social medias because we get inundated with them, and a lot of them go to our spam box. Here we get them directly. Shout out to Tipster today, who made a comment asking about field player coaching and asking for advice on how to coach field players. And I basically said, as we wrap up right here, and I'd love to get your guys' feedback here, but basically said, hey, you know what? You've done possession activities with your goalkeepers, working with a left back. It's not that different. It's possession out of the back, chase, clean feet, all that sort of stuff. So don't freak out if you're a young goalkeeper coach out there and asked to run field sessions, because I know we've all been asked to do that. So, yeah.
Very true.
All right, guys. That's all the time on Inside the 18, and we are out. Later, guys.